Can you do me a favor real quick?
Yeah.
Can you just go to Google and search for HW Info 64? I want you to install a piece of software on your computer.
Oh, onto my Windows PC. Sure.
Yeah, you're on Windows right now,
I'm
right?
I'm on Windows.
Okay. So you should be able
HW
to download this very
Info
elaborate
64.
performance monitoring app.
Okay.
Um,
Are you are you
Download it, install it.
are you hacking
Am
me?
I am I hacking you? I wish. I really wish I was.
I see HW Info beta installer portable. I probably want just the normal installer, not the beta, right?
Yeah. Can you hang on one second?
Sure.
Thought I heard a knock at the door. I'm
Ooh,
gonna run and grab that.
spooky. When people knock on my door, I just don't answer these days. It's really awful. I hate it.
False alarm.
Extra spooky. I love it.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard. I got the headphones on. Now
True.
I'm just hearing stuff. Uh, so once this installs,
Okay.
I
Uh-huh.
remember the install process being surprisingly elaborate.
It's a lot of wizards. Okay. I think it installed. Yes, please. You can. So do I hit run?
Yeah, go ahead and run it, and it should pop up like a billion different little windows.
Holy shit. And indeed it has.
Yeah, and I think the interesting one is the one with all the temperature gauges, or the sensor status one. It should look like this.
Okay. Let's see. I see the CPU active clock.
What is the temperature of your CPU right now?
Oh, here's the sensors button. Um, let's see.
And then you
My
have like a ton of like CPU sensor readings, right? There should be like at least six of them.
Yeah, and I don't see. Yeah, I see a bunch of temperature stuff. I don't see. Oh shit! I tried to close one window. It closed the whole thing. Okay, wait. Sorry. Hang on. Windows. I'm gonna run it sensors only because I guess that's all I care about right now.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
correct.
That's fewer windows. I love it. Um, okay, CPU. All right, so I've got CPU 0. This AMD Ryzen. Oh my god, I expanded the window and it doesn't expand to the rest of it.
It's just a bunch of blank space on the side.
Yep, that's truly hilarious. My CPU temperature is currently 52 degrees Celsius.
Okay. And what are the minimum and maximum?
Minimum is also 52. Maximum is 60.
Okay. So I'm trying. You have a Ryzen 3600, right?
3700X.
Oh wow. Okay.
I got 100 more
You're
than
a
you.
notch. You got 100 more than me. So I was running my computer today, my Windows computer, trying to get a screenshot for our today's tweet
Mm-hmm.
in anticipation of this stream,
It was a good tweet. I liked it.
and the computer just like turned off.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is just some Windows bullshit. But it turned off in like in a way that like, I heard a click, so it was like a hardware turn off, but like my motherboard fan kept spinning
Uh-oh.
like really loud. Like it was stuck in that mode,
Okay.
and it kept going, and I was just like, okay, I better just turn my computer off. So I like held down the power button until it stopped, turned it back on, and it was fine. But then when I started installing the new version of Unity on my computer, I was watching HW Info, and my like CPU temp went up to like 90 something degrees Celsius.
That's like close to max. Like 100 is, I think, where these things fail, right?
Supposedly, yeah, you don't want it to get to 100, I guess. I'm not sure what why 100 is magic. Does it start like evaporating the water and the already evaporated water in the air around it? Like I'm not sure what the
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it has anything to do with like just strange conductivity or like actually things start melting.
it's just weird that 100 is the number, right? Uh Maximum temperature for many CPUs is in the 105 to 110 degrees Celsius range. Better keep things below 80. So yeah, it got really hot.
Okay.
And so I was like, what the fuck? Because I like wasn't really driving it that hard. I was just like installing an app,
Sure,
right?
sure, sure, sure.
So I pulled my computer down from my wire rack and stood it upright and it started doing stuff. And it was still kind of hot. Like sometimes it would get into the 60s, which to me
Hmm.
seemed like a lot for what I was doing. So it leads me to believe that either my CPU cooling situation is gravity dependent, and so therefore the case has to be oriented a certain way, or that the CPU cooling solution is just not working correctly.
Oh, maybe not gravity, but I wonder if you're feeding the hot air back into it because that will not help.
Yeah, my impression is that
So that is gravity dependent. You're
air,
right.
yeah, sort of. My impression is that the air exhausts out the back of my NZXTH1 orientation, like fan orientation. I'm pretty sure that like the radiator fan goes at the back.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, you have it on like a wire rack. Is that the back of your case? That looks really cool.
I didn't have this kind of cool
Oh,
little mesh thing on the back. This actually looks like the front of the case. I don't know. Oh, this is a bunch of stickers on the glass. Is that right? It kind of looks like like laser cut plastic,
it
doesn't
says
it?
it says sticker bomb. Maybe they stickered the glass to look like that.
Uh, yeah, that's probably what it was. So this is the front of it. It's like got a glass front, and then my impression is that all the intake fans are on the sides,
Hmm.
and then everything exhausts out the back. And I had it facing like glass side down, right? Like I have a piece of silicone sitting on the wire rack, and
That
it
should
was
be
glass
fine.
side down. It should be fine. It was getting hot, and I think it was even getting hotter than when I had it sideways, like when you were over, like when you came over to my place the last couple of weeks. It was like
Yeah.
sideways.
Huh. Okay.
So
Interesting.
that got me into the whole like black hole of like should I get a new case and a new cooler kind of
Hmm.
thing. And I was like, oh my God, do I really want this PC to drag me down another like
So I was gonna
rabbit
say
hole?
my PC is literally like 2.5 times the size of yours. Like I bought this weird off the shelf shit, uh, and there's a lot more volume in it at least.
Yeah, I'm guessing that your thermals are gonna be better than mine, but like my CPU should not be going up to like the 90 degrees Celsius because of installing Unity, right?
Not from Unity especially. Yeah, that's like
Man, and then like it's all these considerations because we kind of got like a slightly weird motherboard. It's like an AMD motherboard, but it's got like mounting brackets for an Intel fan because they had this galaxy brained idea that like people would find more support for different hardware or
it's
other
bizarre.
coolers. Yeah, and then if I get another case, I have this wire rack now, and so like there's this like weird cart pulling the horse sort of thing where it's like, can I the case that I get will it fit on the wire rack? Because now the wire rack's fucking there, right? Like,
I have questions. Yeah. Well, damn.
um, yeah, but there are kind of cool cases out there. There's this little guy that I was seeing. Everyone seems to like it. It doesn't have any images apparently.
Oh, that looks more like mine. Also, like I love that like the two tone black and two tone white is like the industrial design of the year. Very Xbox. Looks good though.
Yeah, yeah, black is kind of cool. I think the white one is actually $10 more expensive.
Damn.
It's a commentary on our
It's
society, I
racist
think.
as fuck. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this will fit on the wire rack, potentially requiring some adjustments.
You know why white is more expensive? It's probably because you get better RGB through it because gamers need their RGB.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you get better RGB?
I don't know.
The black one has glass on the side.
Well, is
I
it?
guess it's a little tinted.
I was gonna say it's frosted. The white one is clear. That's what they're
Oh,
charging for
better
the clear glass.
RGB.
Yeah.
Better RGB. Oh man. I just think black appliances kind of like make the room look smaller.
Mm-hmm. You know, we're nearly a year into it. I love my PS5. I think it just looks so cool. I'm like so glad someone did something different with an appliance for once.
Yeah, I'm fine with the PS5 now. It sits on my shelf and it looks kind of weird and I don't care.
It looks like a flower arrangement, and that's fine.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think people probably overreacted to it. Like I think people would be more than happy to have a PS5 on their shelf.
Well, for many reasons, but
Yeah.
I also think it's like a fairly attractive piece of hardware. Why doesn't it lack
Yeah.
for the next 5 years?
Okay. So before we dive into it, that is not, before we dive, let's dive out of my PC case buying. We'll do that. We'll worry about that later. Is our website not working? It's just not. I
Oh shit! Give it a reload.
Yeah, it's live.
I thought that used to live update, but I guess it doesn't. Hmm.
Yeah. I it's not a big deal. Um, I am curious if you have any non-spoiler Metroid Dread takes or reviews.
Oh, it's great. It captures all the same good vibes of Super Metroid. Um, with the
Well,
exception
amazing.
with the exception of they really beefed it on the controls, which is too bad.
Oh, really? Tell me more.
Um, it's got this 360 aim, but it's not twin stick all the time. To do 360 aim, you have to hold down a bumper. So you have to hold down the left bumper and use the left stick to move and use the right stick to aim, and it's too many things at once. Plus, you need the right bumper and the right trigger for different functions that sometimes you need to aim. So like you find that
Oh, so you're doing
you're
this.
holding down like four buttons at once sometimes, which is or like two buttons and two sticks. It's a lot. Um, by the
Is
end,
this a this
I,
is
it
this
was
a
easy.
cautionary tale for us?
Yeah,
Oh,
actually,
okay. So you got used to it.
you get used to it, but also like it's hard. And I noticed by the
Okay.
end, there was like one weapon combo that was on the right trigger that I still couldn't consistently like remember how to get to, and I thought that was really like by the end of a 10-hour game that it hadn't clicked was like poor design.
Yeah. Is it only a 10-hour game?
My time was 10 hours, but apparently it resets when you die. It unclocks the time, so I'm not sure.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I had 10 hours of if Samus never died the dozens of times I died playthrough, so I'm not quite sure.
Right.
It's great. I thought it's not their best environmental work in terms of like separating the worlds, but it is maybe the biggest Metroid I've played. Um,
Okay.
it was good. I really loved it. It was very easy to pick up. I didn't want to put it down. Some of the bosses are too hard.
I've only heard good things about it,
Yeah.
which is exciting. I remember when we first were taking a look at this, it seemed like the art style was a bit of a turnoff, but every video I've seen made it seem really smooth, actually.
In motion, it looks great. Static, it looks kind of bland, which is too bad.
Yeah.
It has a story, which is really weird. Like I'm not accustomed to that for these.
Okay.
I think
So there's like cutscenes and stuff.
like sporadically and surprisingly, I think you described Metroid as a tone poem, and like this one sort of
Yeah.
forgot it was a tone poem at three moments in the game, and I was like, oh well, okay, I guess I forgot there were like words in this, but sure.
So there's voice acting.
Uh, technically, sure, yeah. I think
Is it like a gibberish alien
yeah,
language?
it's all gibberish.
Okay. I gotta take out the garbage. I should
What?
probably turn off my notice.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Um, the load times are too long, which is really disappointing.
Hmm.
But it was great.
I don't know what the deal is with load time on a cartridge. I guess it's just not physical read speed. That's the issue anymore. There's
mean,
just a lot of textures.
it's the environments are super detailed and have a lot of stuff going on. And like once you're in them, there's no load times, but like you do a lot of transitioning between worlds, and it's
Yeah.
sort of like it feels like it punishes you when you want to like go back and check something out, which is a bummer. I have like a long document of sort of like critiques, but also like I loved every second of it. It was super fun.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and like Samus looks great. It's a weird follow up to Fusion, which I also loved. So, big fan.
Right. Oh, this looks cool. Whatever this is.
Yep.
Um. Yeah. So I played Lost Judgment.
Nice.
You know how we were joking about how they spelled the word judgment wrong?
I feel super shitty that they didn't, because I've been
They
making fun of them
didn't, actually.
forever.
Turns out there's two judgments, one with an E, one without, or sorry, one with the middle E.
To to be fair, the fact that it's a legal term that is spelled without the E, I feel less bad about not knowing because
Yeah. Okay, well, what is the actual difference?
a judgment without an E is a thing handed down by a judge.
Okay.
Oh, or it's just the
Uh,
British spelling? I forget.
what is the difference between judgment and judgment?
This one always
The
gets
one
me.
with the E in the middle, the E after the G, is like your ability to discern things and make good decisions, right?
Well, now it
Um,
seems like it's just the British.
I don't. I feel like you're right. Like judgment is a noun that has several meanings: the act of judging,
Hmm.
and the ability to make a decision authoritatively.
I feel so lied to. What's the worst part is that like I've just been
Let's
spelling
let's
this
check
wrong
out
forever.
Merriam-Webster, a second or third tier dictionary, but it has
Ooh,
no paywall.
controversial, man.
Um, I actually don't have a judgment on dictionaries, except that I find it ridiculous that the OED has a paywall in front of it. Um, I mean, I think they just both count, right? I think they seem like they're the same thing.
I think so. Yeah, it
This
turns
dictionary is
out
just not making it. Yeah.
I think we were just being English chauvinists because we didn't believe it was real.
We totally were.
Yeah,
So I finished Lash's Judgment.
finished it. Nice.
Well, I sort of finished it. There's like two main quests. One is
Hmm.
like the main storyline quest, and one is like the main kind of like side optional quest that a bunch of other subquests hang off of.
Hmm.
So there's one like serial killer plot, and there's one high school plot. And the high school plot's a side quest, and the high school
It's
plot
just a funny sentence.
um, is basically all like it has like 7 or 8 sub chapters, and each one is based on like a different mini game. Like so, there's
Oh
like
lordy. Okay,
a motorcycle gang that some of the kids are involved in. So you
hmm,
have to like race motorcycles, and there's like a boxing gym that there's a student that like goes to, so you box.
that's
That's
hilarious.
that's why you can dance, and that's why you can skateboard. Like they basically
Excellent.
built all these mini games, and it is like the most maximalist Yakuza game I've played yet. Out of Judgment
Hmm.
1, Yakuza 0, Kiwami 1, and maybe 25% of Kiwami 2.
Hmm.
That's kind of my knowledge of it. And like Lost Judgment has like twice as much content as anything else. It's crazy.
Jesus. Okay. Fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on like a Dragon Studio break. I'm on detox, so
Okay.
I can play another one of these again.
Yeah. I think that's a wise decision because this one I would say is more annoying than the other ones. Not nearly as good or engaging as the first Judgment.
Well, damn. That's too bad.
I still recommend it though.
Good.
I still recommend it as these games you just kind of live inside of them for a while.
As I
Right?
say, a bad Yakuza game sounds totally fine to me.
Yeah, I mean, even just talking about it right now wants me to, like makes me want to go and finish Kiwami 2, you know? um, but I'd say the game starts off way better than it ends, and like the whole like serial killer plot, the moral side of this,
Hmm.
like the narrative and the themes of it are so bad, you're
That,
gonna be angry at it.
that's what I've heard. I've heard it's like
Yeah,
actually for the first time because like usually their whatever they do like their sensitivity reads are great. Like it's
yeah,
disappointing that they would miss that because normally they're so fucking on the money.
yeah, or at least they're super good-hearted without being sanctimonious.
Yeah,
And this game is sanctimonious.
that's too bad.
Yeah. Um, and their equivalent of the Majima character, the
Hmm.
kind of like anti-hero guy that you're supposed to like kind of like because he's sort of a hero too,
Hmm.
is fucking terrible.
No, damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, this dude here. You've probably seen him in some of the
I
vids.
have,
There
yeah.
he is with his buddy. He's supposed to be sort of like a foil to Yagami, and they're kind of on the same side, but kind of enemies at the same time.
I
He
mean,
sucks.
I can
He
tell.
just sucks the whole game.
I can tell he sucks because he's not wearing like a leopard print coat with no shirt. Like he's inferior,
Yeah.
clearly.
but I think that they knew what they were doing because like they needed a character. Do you remember The Dark Knight?
Yeah.
That was the second of the Christopher Nolan
Oh
Batman
yeah.
movies. They had to have Harvey Dent in it because they realized that Bruce Wayne was too boring of a character.
Hmm.
So they needed someone that actually had an arc. They had someone that like had a thing that they wanted to do,
Hmm.
a conflict that they had, and then either a redemption or a fall from grace or whatever they were going to go through, right?
Right.
And that was why that movie was good. They actually decided to bring on the side character who was kind of low key the main character of that movie. And the same thing is true of Lost Judgment of this dude right here.
Okay.
But he sucks.
Damn.
So
I was gonna say
okay.
after I played Yakuza 0, I was like, I'm sad that the rest of these games don't star Majima. Like, what a real tragedy actually that like he's not the main character of the rest of the series.
Yeah. Yeah. Majima's good. At least Majima from Yakuza 0 is good. He's kind of annoying in the other ones, I think.
Yeah, I mean he does a really good heel turn in that. Like yeah, they make him the anti-hero very effectively. I liked it.
Yeah.
Pity about this Kuwana guy. That's too bad.
All right. So those are the game reviews of the day.
Nice.
All right. So should we get right into it?
Yeah, well, you have done a lot of stuff.
I've done a lot of stuff. I wanted to talk about a couple of quality life things, and then we can talk about some of the new stuff here. And
Hell
then
yeah.
if we have time, we can actually start to work on things.
Yeah, I'm really curious about your VS Code change specifically because your setup is always better than mine.
Yeah, it's not super sophisticated. Okay. So I learned how to make a VS Code extension last week. It's actually a pretty pleasant experience. But all I added was you'll notice there's no vendor folder in here. Oh, there is. It's currently exposed.
You have a file open in it. Yeah, that's why.
Right. So if I close the files, it should go away completely, right?
If you close that one, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but sometimes you want to see it. Sometimes you want stuff to come up if you search for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't I do this and I'll do show vendored assets.
Fancy. Oh shit.
I don't know what this is.
Unexpected J. Uh-oh.
Is this because I updated VS Code?
This is some real doing it live shit. Damn, what happened?
Yeah, it was totally working before. Let me see.
Now do we get to experience how you debug a VS Code extension? Because I'm super curious. Is it running off code on your machine? Because that's really cool.
It's basically you package this by like building this thing, and all it is just like a zip file that has a bunch of stuff in it, I think. But what it's supposed to do is just like it really does. All it does is edit. It basically does. It does the equivalent of.
Oh, that's hilarious! It just changes that.
Or
this.
I love it. But I got tired because I was doing it a lot, so I got tired of doing it.
Nice.
I'm really kind of bummed about this though. Unexpected token in JSON. Maybe what it is this this is like not correctly formatted. I think I know what's going on. Like if I get rid of this.
Can you have comments? Yeah, I think you might not be able to have comments. Bingo.
Okay.
This is not JSON 5, which allows comments.
Yeah, this is just a JSON. So I'm showing the vendor like.
Cool.
Show vendored assets.
You gotta close that scripts folder. Nice. Sweet.
Yeah, so it's there now. Now the big thing for this is that you can search in there now, and stuff will show up and find references.
That's really cool.
And like find and file. And because we have some stuff in there, we're starting to get some stuff, right? Like there's Mirror, there's TextMesh Pro.
What's that?
Which I added it's just like the new component system for text in the UI. We were using TextMesh before. I don't know what Pro is doing, but when I looked at the documentation for TextMesh, they were like, this is legacy. And they shamed me. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll use the new thing.
Every fucking Unity thing is a
legacy.
So
we got this. Yeah, wow. So we got this massive thing in there now.
Cool.
Shared Live VS Code. I bought this extension for us so that we could actually have auto formatting in a .shader file, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
That seems very reasonable.
So that's the VS Code extension.
Nice.
It was pretty nice editing it. I think it's nice to have a little platform where you can kind of just like add stuff to VS Code when you
Hmm.
want it to have. And all I did was just add a couple commands here. Show vendored assets. I can also hide the vendored assets.
Oh, you ran out
So
of
now,
command
yeah.
mode somehow. Yeah, nice.
No. Yep. There we go. So
It's
it's gone, and then vendor is not showing up
oh, that's
anymore.
great.
Right.
It's when you delete the caret, it it loses command and turns into a file prompt from yeah.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, if you do that, if you hit back,
That's
yeah,
kind of cool.
yeah,
Cool.
neat.
Um, so that was that one thing. There's another thing I discovered recently that I think has actually regressed a little bit in the new versions of Unity,
Hmm.
but there's Command K, which
Oh,
lets you search for stuff.
hello.
Um, so like if I find that I always want to go to like a particular prefab, right? Like if
Hmm.
I want to go to like the client effects prefab, it's not perfect. Like if I hit enter here, it doesn't open it. It actually just
Ah,
selects it down here.
okay.
But if I hit command down, well, normally it selects it.
It's selected.
Oh shit. It's Oh, I see. Well what I meant is selected like this, because then I can hit command down and it'll actually open
Hmm.
it.
Okay. Command down. Oof.
Because the enter key doesn't actually the enter key goes in the rename mode. What I would
Oh,
really love is
thanks,
the command
macOS.
K, like, yeah. Um, I would love if this actually
Can you like command click on it,
clicked on it
or
and opened it. All it does is just like highlight it in the project file.
what if you command click?
Um, if I command click one of these,
Nothing. Shit. That's really
sometimes I want to go to level one, right? So I started using this. Yeah, it kind of like it's selected down there behind our faces, and if I hit command down, oh,
weird.
for some reason it's not opening now. Yeah, oh, it's because it's still open here. Yeah, so it's got some issues. The other thing I really don't like about it is that when I hit Command K, it leaves the previous search there, which for this type of like fast open, quick navigation type tool,
It didn't even select it for you to hit delete, did it? Or
yeah. I don't know if it's like somebody told the programmer like what this feature was like, and that person was like implementing it by interpretation or something like that.
that's
It could be that there are some settings to mess with. Maybe. I don't know. Like if I go in here, you can add a bunch of providers, like what is actually feeding this thing.
oh god, this thing has a tiny Sherlock in it. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah. And it's also kind of slow. Like if it's the first time you open Unity, this thing like takes forever to pop up and populate. But I think it's better than not having it. I do feel like the previous version of this thing was better. Uh, it used to be called Quick Search, and now it's just called Search.
Hmm.
So hopefully they'll continue to invest in this tool. I like every time I use any app that has a ton of stuff in it, I find myself really wanting something like this, like a command palette. You know?
Ah, it's too bad this one is not super great.
You know, Blender has one.
Doesn't I mean every IDE does at some point, right?
Yeah, Blender has like a search tool that's a lot like this, like does like a fuzzy matching on what you type, and then you can go down, you can hit the arrow keys, and then actually select the thing that you want it to do, and it'll run that command for
Oh,
you,
that's
which
funny.
is really nice.
That is nice.
Yeah.
I feel like we could use that more because I can't keep track of the like control space or control O shortcuts for all the object shit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So those were the kind of productivity things that I was kind of messing with because I got tired of doing certain things repeatedly over and over again. We'll see
Nice.
what the next frontier is.
Very cool.
Um, Okie doke. So the game.
Mm-hmm. I see some wheels.
Yeah, these are some wheels. Why don't we just demonstrate the feature first?
Yeah.
Can I use this thing? Oh, it worked this time. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I don't know why. Maybe not trying to explain it is how it works. It doesn't want to be.
I think that's what it is. There's a little bit of like Heisenberg kind of stuff going on there. Look at our tiny little level here, and our giant UI.
It's because the UI is set to be 800 by 600, and in this view, that is units or meters.
Oh, that does not seem like a super useful distinction. And yet the UI is somehow
All right,
bigger
that's weird.
than this one.
You know, one thing I've thought about is that like maybe both of these should be not active, and the game should activate them for you. Because I actually don't want to see them
That's fair.
in the scene view at all.
Yeah, you kind of just want to see them as in prevab,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
All right. So I'm gonna fire it up.
Nice. I like that it compiled to start. Hey, you know what? That was a fast compile. Love it.
It was fast.
Worth
That was
it.
real fast. Yeah, real fast. Yeah. So the new addition are the weapon selection wheels. I don't know if you've had a chance to play with these yet.
Oh, I played with them before you changed the behavior yesterday.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
So now the behavior is basically this will come up, and if you don't choose anything, it doesn't do anything, right? So it importantly, it doesn't. This selector wheel is not showing you what you currently have selected. It's just like it's just a selection thing.
Gotcha.
We probably want some ambient indication of what you do have selected, though.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the screen, but that's coming up some other time. So yeah, you can use the mouse to kind of choose what you want.
I love it.
The new thing is, I guess it doesn't matter in mouse mode as much, but I used to when I initially implemented this, there was a null zone in between these two, where you could actually unselect what you currently had selected, and it would be as if you didn't open the weapon wheel at all. And
yeah.
the reason why I changed the behavior is because on controller mode, I'm using the controller now. I would do this, and then I would let go of the stick, and then let go of the button.
Yep.
And it would basically select nothing, right? So now it's just kind of like you just basically pick a direction, and if you're not pressing the stick anymore, it still retains that selection. So when you let go, you've actually transitioned to it, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, look at that. Oof.
Yeah, I don't want to give that feature away just yet. The build cursor is just wildly fast on the new Unity.
Oh, can you maximize the game?
So,
I'm looking at a lot of Unity here, or a lot of empty Chrome.
Yeah,
you might as well make it
do
bigger. I think you
How do I do that?
You can right click on the game tab itself in the
Oh, that's right. Maximize.
Yeah. I mean, well, fine. Free aspect is good. I just wanted to see more of it. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, that looks great.
No problem.
It's actually it's a lot bigger on the stream too.
Now choose the turret.
Jeff, you are chugging a little bit. I don't think it's me.
Yeah, I've noticed a little bit of stuttering on the video chat. Hopefully,
Okay.
Hopefully it's just bad weather.
We've both had a bunch of that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, see if you need an ice pack.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
What's my temp? What are my temps like?
Yeah, do you have iStat or something?
How do I find out? How do I find out on a Mac?
Do you have iStat menus?
I don't. My computer's a little warm. I wonder. Unity. I guess the new Unity is really taxing it now.
I mean, it might be using it fully. Yeah.
Do we need to buy MacBook Pros? Is this the inevitable conclusion that we're coming to?
God damn it, those jerks. I googled max check CPU temp, and there is a command that's in the first Google result if you're curious. You could also hit the stats menu at the top right of the play screen.
Show me my stats, bro. Okay. So it's not throttling the performance here.
Here's what I think. I've noticed this on mine too, where the game runs at 240. We have uncapped frame rate, and I think it's just eating everything it get its hands on.
Oh, how do I cap the frame rate?
I have no fucking clue, but I noticed that, and I was like, that's a lot of frames for this game, and I'm like, I don't think we need to be running at 140.
How did Chrome escape to that desktop? All right, Unity cap frame rate.
It's a lot better now that you're not running the game, so I think that might be part of it.
Okay. One thing I have a complaint about, like one of the reasons why we're using Unity is because there's a big community around it, and there's just a ton of resources and documentation around it.
Hmm.
Um, but there is so much bit rot.
It's
This is all just
ridiculous.
coming up from like a week of like looking at Unity forum stuff, and it's just ridiculous how much outdated information there is out there.
I
It's a
mean,
big problem.
we've invested a little money in Unity, but I am not 100% committed to this thing if we decide that like Unreal is less bitrotty or just like we want to make a Godot game. So I do.
I wrote this for hello. I wrote this frame rate limiter because the engine doesn't have it, which is
But
unbelievable.
wait, you're reading. This is a 2016 answer, so like,
Yeah. Application.target frame rate.
that sure sounds right.
Because it looked like that other guy was just doing a sleep, which is not, or rather like a busy wait or something, which is not what we
No.
want.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Um, I feel like there should just be like a project setting, right? Like,
Hmm.
why have this? I don't know. Maybe they want games to actually run at like a billion FPS. So, anyways, let's see if maybe at a smaller resolution it's okay, even though it's not
It's
super cool looking.
hit the stat. It's better when you're not moving around. Yeah.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
just
it's.
going for it.
I think it's eating your whole GPU, is what I think it's doing.
Is that what it's doing?
Which like, it's not multi-core on the CPU, but it is just like it'll take as many GPU cores as it gets, right?
I suppose so. Is
It's.
this an M1 thing? Do you think?
I mean, I'm thinking that Unity M1 is like, they're like, we did it, M1 support. It uses the whole processor, which is good. Like it's what I wanted. Unless
All right,
it,
I'm more than happy to take a quick little detour here. Um, let's see here. Actual frame rate limiting from Reddit.
oh, good lord. Yeah, I only say this. I noticed this when I was streaming by myself, but I hadn't updated Unity yet. So, why would you ever need that? Because you don't want to go above 60.
Yeah, I feel like I could just turn VSync on, right?
That would do it, right?
Quality settings VSync.
Oh,
Let's take a
let's
look.
turn VSync on. Yeah. Ooh, if you get a new MacBook,
Quality.
that is twice as fast.
That is true. That is true. But then it'll eat the CPU that you're spending so much money on.
Mm.
VSync count every VBlank. I mean, I think that it's on,
That seems right. Yeah. Well, okay.
but maybe it's just the render thread is I don't actually understand how the VSync is being applied, and when we're looking at FPS, what FPS are we talking about? It's
Yeah.
obviously not drawing 60 like 120 frames a second, right?
No, it can't.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to live with that
so it goes.
harsh reality.
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah.
You've done more than due diligence, so works for me. Compiles fast. I'm still into
Okay.
it.
Yep. Okay. So if I open the build menu and I let it close, I'm still shooting. I have to actually select something, and now I'm building.
Gotcha.
Oh god. Yeah. And I think this is how you would expect it to happen, right? Expect it to work.
Yeah.
Like if I tap the weapon wheel now and I let go, I'm still building,
I think that's right.
right? Yeah, because you could just like kind of like tap it and let it pop open like this just by mistake, and you don't want to like disrupt what you were doing before, right?
Yeah, and I feel like the mouse version might still need the dead zone because like dead zone on a controller is just so different compared to a mouse.
Yeah.
Like you can not touch the stick, but you can't like not touch the mouse.
Yeah. So talking implementation really quickly,
Yeah.
the way it works with the mouse is that I essentially like as soon as you open it, I'm actually tracking frame over frame delta of the cursor position. And what you can imagine is that there's like two concentric circles, and there's a concentric circle in the middle. And while the sort of like cursor position that I'm tracking, so that's not the same thing as the actual cursor position. It's the just like when the menu opened, like how far has the cursor traveled. When you're inside that inner circle, it doesn't select anything, right? So I can move around a little bit and it doesn't select anything. But once I've kind of gone outside of that circle, it selects something. And then the outer ring is basically it's like the biggest distance that I'll track away from the original position. And that's just so that like you're like, it's so that you don't have to like drag this virtual cursor that I'm keeping track of like all the way back from where it was before.
That makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
Now I'm actually a little bit curious why the hardware cursor is showing. I might have gotten rid of or rather the OS cursor is showing here, because I think I might have gotten rid of the line that disables that, but you can see the pointer, right? And
yes.
that shouldn't be showing in the game. Yeah.
I can see the pointer. The pointer is somehow a second ahead of your red laser sight.
Yeah.
Okay, you see that too. Great.
Yeah. Well, it's not on my computer, but
okay.
you know what? There's a little bit of, but it's because I think the OS updates the mouse at a faster rate than other applications.
I think also Zoom might be looking at the mouse specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Fascinating. Cool.
Okay.
Looks great.
So that's the wheel implementation for the mouse. I do wonder if eventually we should just have a cursor that's visible here in mouse and keyboard mode, and that like if you hover over the objects, it'll just select.
I think
because what I'm doing right now is a little bit complicated.
Yeah, I was gonna say even for gamepad mode, I like weapon wheels when you can see, like you hold a direction, you can see where you are. Like basically just mapping the actual rotation of the stick onto a circle, and it looks great. So yeah, I think doing the same thing here would make sense.
Yeah. So the way that this is implemented is kind of like what you said. Basically, as long as you're like both the mouse and keyboard essentially have this idea of a dead zone, right? Where if I move it just a tiny bit, I can't do it. I'm moving it a tiny bit right now. You can't see my thumb, but like,
gotcha.
Apparently the tiny bit is not low enough though. Then nothing will happen. And then once you do actually tilt it in a certain direction, let me actually show you the code.
Nice. Yeah, once you tilt, it like keeps track of or remembers what you selected until you select something else.
Yeah, so there's this thing called a wheel selector, and you stick this on the parent game object. Nice. And then it has a bunch of children called wheel selector options. Let me jump over to Unity really quickly, and I can show you the prefab.
Oh yeah, I'm very curious how this is structured.
Oh man, I really want that to pre-select everything.
Yeah.
And will it open? Okay, oh gosh, it opened. So I think what it is I have to actually hit enter when I'm in quick search. I can't just mouse over and click something. I have to hit enter, and then I can do command down.
Gotcha, okay.
Because the keyboard focus will then jump to the project browser. So I have two wheels, the weapon wheel and the build wheel. The weapon wheel has the wheel selector script at the top level. So does the build wheel. And maybe I can actually hide some of this stuff. We'll talk about the weapon wheel first.
Okay.
Then each option down here has a wheel selector option on it. And the only thing that it has in it is essentially a string identifier. And this is the way that the program or the game script knows logically what this button is supposed to represent.
Gotcha.
It doesn't read the text. I just let the text be something that you can design in the tool, but this is like the kind of like programmatic identifier.
Cool.
For this. So if we look at the way that the build wheel is set up, it's going to be kind of very, very similar to that. So we have the build wheel here. The build wheel has a wheel selector, and then each of these, the wall has a wheel selector option called wall.
Okay.
And what I did is I made sure that this text matches the
enum.
identifier of the enum
Yeah.
that it corresponds to, because I do some like enum value.to strings in the code.
Gotcha.
It's not my favorite way of handling this, but because this is so generic, I can't assign an enum to this field in this property in the script itself, because it's handling different enums, right?
Is this a case for scriptable objects where we can actually pass, like, you want to instantiate types of these, basically? You want to have a stronger coupling of code to UI, so I think you need to instantiate a wall and a turret and stick them in there so they're actually connected. Scriptable objects are a pain in the ass, but I guess that's the way to make sure you don't have to do like stringly type shit.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be into it. I'm not 100% sure how it would work from a type safety perspective, just because like the like this wheel selector option, unless you can basically make a Unity component, you know.
Sorry, can you say that again? You just cut out on me. Hello. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wow, the stream paused and everything, but we're back. Luckily, my internet connection is unstable. Luckily, Windows didn't do an update this time. I think we're okay.
Oh man, I also updated Windows this morning and it took for fucking ever.
I did my Mac
maybe it was the
update.
Windows update that maybe it was the Windows update that ruined my heat.
Maybe it was, yeah. What was it Windows 11? Is that where we're at now?
I did not do Windows 11, but I did a bunch of shit today. Okay. I installed a bunch of like updates that were pending. I also turned on my TPM, my trust protection module on the CPU.
Fancy. And
I did that because the updater was shaming me into doing it. It was like, your computer is not ready for Windows 11. Wow. And I'm like, you're making me feel bad, man.
Rude.
Yeah, so it turned out because I didn't have the TPM enabled in the BIOS. Go figure.
That's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about these wheel selector options, which you attach to the game objects that are underneath the wheel selector. So how do we use that in the code?
Yeah.
First of all, just to confirm, the wheel selector option really isn't anything other than a house for this key string.
Yep. Oh man, I'm gonna make these scriptable objects. I'm gonna be the asshole who keeps doing that to our code, but I think it's gonna be good.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I kind of get them. I'm still trying to get them fully.
So what it does when the wheel selector turns on, it looks for all of its children that have the wheel selector option component on it. It puts them in the dictionary by their key value. And then what it does is it says, what is its position relative to mine? And I'm actually going to store that in another dictionary, keyed off by that same string key, and just basically take its radial position.
Oh, okay. So you're doing the layout in the canvas view, and it just doesn't care. Like, it figures out where the selection should go. Yeah, I was trying to think,
like, what happens if we add like multiple of these things, right? Like, what's the right way of dealing with that?
So I've got a question.
So this is just
well, sorry. Yeah. You first.
No, go ahead.
Can we reverse this? Can we give this a dictionary of options and have it arrange the position? Like, if you put a third one in here, can we make it so we have to drag and drop it in the UI? Because it looks like we're basically there.
Yeah, we can totally do that. The thing that I didn't know how to do, and we probably will have to drive that programmatically, especially if we do loadouts, right? The labels will change and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I did know how to do was, like, if this build wheel got like fancy, like if there were like actual art assets or we showed like circular segments, do we have some that only have 2 options or 3 options? Like, I didn't have an answer to those questions. So for right now, what you do is you just lay it out in the editor. I
think that makes sense. Yeah.
And then you but I think you're right that the backwards way is eventually how we're going to want to do it. And maybe what the wheel will do is select from one of 3 like visual templates. What maybe there's one with only two options, there's one with three options, there's one with five
Mm-hmm.
options or something like that. And then like programmatically we can basically like tell it like what icon is there and like what text is there and what enum value that corresponds to.
That sounds right. Okay, cool. Neat.
Yeah. Um so when the wheel selector pops up, we reset the selection.
Mm-hmm.
The selection is just a string, but it can be null because you can't have nothing selected at first.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically, I have this thing that you basically pass in some direction,
Nice.
around in a circle. And what this does is it says, okay, I'm going to find the closest thing to that direction because I stored them all, right? I stored
Mm-hmm.
all the directions. That's the thing that's selected. We're going to go ahead and set its selection state, and then we're going to return that as well so you can tell the game logic which one that you actually chose, right?
Cool. That makes sense.
And that will then go like affect like whether you're going to like enter the build mode or whether you're shooting something or something like that.
So you can tell the game. So something reads from the select, like something reads the return value of select closest option. Where do we call this?
Yes, you basically say the game just knows.
Oh, I see.
The
It's
game
like
tells you like what direction is the stick pointing right now.
Right.
That's basically what you pass in there. Yeah.
right because it's in the state machine for player input. That's like you're in build wheel state. Here's my direction. What am I selected? Okay, sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the way that it's fitting together right now.
Gotcha.
The factoring of all this stuff is very fluid. I felt like we could even put the input handling in this class if we wanted to. It's just that we'd have to deal with the mouse and gamepad duality here as well, and I didn't have a great abstraction
Yeah,
for that.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everything right now is in kind of a God class, the player input class. And all the wheel does is say like, hey, I know where the options are arranged physically. Tell me which direction you're pointing. And this could come either from the mouse or it can come from the gamepad.
Cool. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Neat. Interesting. Is there's no like reactive state binding in Unity, is there? We can't like update a thing and have another component watch for that or get notified about it.
Like, is there like a
Because like what I want to do is like I want the wheel selector to set the value, and I want something else to be like option selected as like a callback or an event handler.
I think there's event systems in Unity.
Okay.
Um,
And I realize that raises an entire execution order question, but like
it does.
it might be how I think about UIs, is that I think they work well evented for this sort of shit, and I might need to unlearn that.
I agree with you, and I do wonder, like you're saying, like let's just do like observer pattern basically.
Yeah.
I would say that will probably be relevant. Like
We'll need it for something.
yeah. What's funny is that React is like the web UI framework is like decidedly anti-observer pattern, right? It's like when something changes, update some state, but then like all of the side effects of that state are going to be like stated like in one giant blob, right? And it was to kind of avoid the whole jQuery observer pattern thing where you're just kind of like doing these micro tweaks of the visual presentation, and it became really, really difficult to know where something was being changed.
Yeah,
right?
It's true. Trade-offs.
So speaking of React, I kind of copied the model a little bit in player input.
Oh, let's see it. Yeah.
It's not very mature at all, but basically what we're doing at the beginning of every frame for the UI is we're turning off all the UI. We're just saying like everything by default is not there.
Yep.
And basically, and this is what React is, right? React is basically saying you're opting into everything that is actually visually being displayed based on the state of this frame.
Yep.
Now we'll only call that update. This is actually React's main functionality. So we're only going to call that redraw if we detect that the state changes for you somehow, right? And we don't have any kind of reactive technology here right now. We're literally just like polling every frame. What is the current state?
Well,
rebuild the interface based on that.
I was gonna say it helps that. I mean, it's interesting because like the entire update loop runs, and you can change the active state as many times as you want in that, and it has no side effect. It has no cost until you get to render it. It has to render it. So like, I like that. Unlike React, when you change state, you're not triggering a expensive thing, which in React you do. Like if you change state line by line, you are fucking shit up for someone.
Right. So I think what you're talking about is like exactly what I was going for. However, there are certain state changes that are expensive.
Sure.
I'm actually not even sure if modifying the position of a transform is expensive. Like, does it like get reflected in a physics entity that's sitting somewhere? Like, I don't know what
That's a good
the
question.
actual side effects are.
Yeah.
So I added this deferred updater thing,
Hmm.
which basically gives us what you were talking about.
Cool.
So the deferred updater is actually just a regular freaking class. It's not a mono behavior or anything. And what you do is you say, I'm going to call set active on, but for this game object, and whether I'm going to pass in either true or false into the set active function eventually. And all it does is say, okay, I'm going to remember that you wanted that.
Nice.
Okay. And there are also similar things for set position and set local scale, because these are the things that we're modifying in these UI components. That's all it does currently. And then at some point in the game frame, typically after everything has been processed, right, you're going to want to call this apply updates. And it's going to say, tell me all of the requests to set active, and I'm going to apply the last thing that was requested. So like,
this is
basically
clever.
if we're turning it off right now, this is not necessarily what is going to be applied to that game object at the very end.
I like it.
Yeah, and then I also had added a shortcut, which I'm a little bit ambivalent about, which is that if you set position or set local scale, that's also the same thing as saying you want it to be active as well. Basically, because I wasn't sure if I was basically always calling set position and set local scale with the set active above it, and I was like, I kind of want those things to happen together. I'll just add it here.
Fair.
Might be too much magic. Might be too magical. So I'm happy being more verbose if it's a little bit clearer.
Okay, it's on the fence for me, but I like what I'm saying.
It was on the fence for me too. Yeah. And then it basically says all the requests I got at the end of the frame, I've handled them all, so cleared out, so the next frame we're ready for it. And then the way that this is available is in the game manager, which is, again, our God object. This is our basically global state. It has a deferred updater just sitting on top of it.
Nice.
Right. And then in the late update, it just calls the application.
I love it. So in the player input, I guess the laser sight that I did is not being deferred updated at all. Line 76.
Yeah, and honestly, performance-wise, this actually has a big cost because there's like callbacks and stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff that happens, but we can handle it. We're not like on a tight budget right now. The reason why I added this is that I finally had a reason that like from a logical perspective why this had to be done this way. And if we go back to wheel selector, you remember this guy? Where once the wheel selector pops up, I want to like clear the selection. This on enable gets called every time set active goes from false to true. And it was happening like every single frame because I wasn't deferring the update when the wheel was open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we were going false then true. Interesting.
Exactly.
Okay. So, I mean, I was going to say, if you want to just put laser sight in a little game manager thing right now, like, please do it. I think I saw that and I was like, I didn't really dig into systems. I was like, oh shit, like, this isn't a client effects object. Like, I think I thought it was more tightly coupled to that as well. But it's just laser sight false here.
And then we're going to enable the laser sight somewhere else, right?
That's correct, yeah. Dot set active.
This one.
Boom.
Yeah, and really we could probably do setting the scale, but whatever. We'll just we can kind of like, I'm not sure about the factoring of this thing again. Like it's kind of like weird, but like let's go ahead and just like add it to the top of this thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I just want to match the pattern because the pattern is good.
right. And so now you're getting a taste of like basically this is a little bit like React saying like I want this div. That's basically what we're saying is that like okay the div wouldn't normally be there, but like because we're calling this update laser side function, I know I want it.
But now it actually is waiting for the renderer to render the frame to do the change instead of actually triggering a bunch of shit live. And I guess maybe we will someday want to do it in update, but I like that the effect just gets applied at the end of the frame to the next one or something.
Right. And so in like logically when the laser sight's supposed to be shown, what this is going to do is it's going to cause set active true to be called on the laser sight like every frame.
Right.
As long as it doesn't go from true to false or false to true, as long as there's no like actual transition of state, the set active is a no op. It's free. There's no like extra callbacks that get called.
And it's like I trust Unity to like that seems safe, and I think setting the position to the same position is probably also safe. Maybe actually, who knows? But yeah, I think if there's a change, I'm sure Unity's doing some dirty mapping of like important game object properties. So sweet, that makes a lot of sense. I like it.
So the general pattern of all of this stuff in the player input system is to basically say like if you're in a piece of logic that wants some visual element to be showing, you just have to say that you want it.
Nice.
Every frame, right? So like if we're in the there's a lot of subclasses here. If we're in the selection state, weapon select state, we are opting into it right here. We're just saying like when we're in this state, turn it on.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
I don't know why I formatted it this way. I think it was just like the flavor of the month.
Well, maybe this might have crossed 8 characters and your thing might have done it for you.
There's no line.
Okay.
I don't think the C#, the C# auto formatter doesn't respect line limits, which is I think a totally valid choice.
For the way C# is structured, yeah.
It tends to be verbose, right?
Yeah. Objective C as well was like very long lines.
Yeah, I kind of do wish that it did it for me though, because like one thing I miss from doing TypeScript amongst many things is that like I didn't have to think about this at all. Now it's like, do I want to split it? Do I not want to split it?
Where is prettier for C#? Yeah, that would be nice. I'm sure there is one actually.
Well, we're running it. It just doesn't happen to do this particular thing.
Okay.
Because like for example, like I can like add this space here, and when I save, it gets rid of it. Right? It's like I don't want you to add that extra white space.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
All right. I guess something. Yeah. It's less opinionated than prettier.
Yeah, I think it turns out to be a hard problem. Like, well, prettier actually just is magical. It's really good, but like a lot of like auto formatters that I've used that like enforce a line limit do it in like a really ungraceful way. Like I think like the Google Style Guide's Java formatter was like super ugly. I don't know if you remember working on code when we were working on Java projects together, and like the auto formatter was just really ugly.
Boy, I don't recall. Yeah, I think I blocked that Java SDK out of my brain.
It would do stuff like this.
Oh.
It would do stuff like it would do this to respect the line length.
Yeah, right? I do remember that. I did not like it.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Yep.
So that is the weapon wheel.
Nice.
In a nutshell. Boy, UI state is well, what's currently here is not anything that makes me happy at all, but like it was the result of like 2 or 3 days of just banging my head against it. Like, how do I account for different input modes, right?
Yep.
We've got the controller, we've got the mouse. When we're doing twin stick with a standard shell on a controller, you don't see the crosshair, but if you're doing mouse and keyboard, you do see the crosshair. There's all these like different things that like all these like different switches to flip on and off.
I think getting it on the page was critical because if you are staring at the problem, starting to write it, it's huge. So I like the messy class. We'll figure it out later situation.
Yeah, I think
We're gonna break
the
up the god
patterns start
class.
to emerge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the patterns start to emerge once they come out. So it's just all on there right now.
Hmm.
So I think as you start to take a look at the input code, like nothing here is sacred whatsoever.
No, that's
Just
great.
as long as like we have a good sense of what the behavior is going to be, then like we can friggin' rewrite the game in Unreal if we wanted to, right?
Which like might be an interesting exercise.
Right.
The Unity bit rot really does get to me. I can tell you're feeling it too.
Yeah,
It's just,
it may or may not be something that any engine, off-the-shelf engine, is going to suffer from.
I kind of expect it. Like if it does enough stuff, it's probably true. And I think just having to trust the docs and also find someone who knows what they're talking about is maybe what we have to do. That's fine.
Yeah.
Nice. This thing
Yeah.
feels really great. I was playing around with it on the controller before.
It feels good on the controller, doesn't it?
Yeah, before I played with it before you added the permanent selection, and the have to let go while you're holding in a direction was weird, but even still the game was so much more playable. I was really into it.
Yep, totally. I think the next frontier is to restrict the cursor as when it's controlled by the gamepad, so it's not just flying all over the screen.
Yeah, and I'm gonna need to do some sort of like modal update when you're in gamepad mode for like when you do update the virtual cursor position, because it's not all the time.
Right.
I don't know if you've experienced that, but I think it's just we have to actually turn it off occasionally.
Yeah, I do wonder if we should be. I guess the mouse cursor is maybe an exception to that rule. Like maybe you should always see a mouse cursor, regardless of whether you have the wheel open, and then maybe things just respond to the mouse cursor.
I think so. Well, if we're drawing like our virtual cursor, like our own disembodied finger Warcraft peon thing, I think it's okay to switch into weapon mode and turn the cursor into a radial dial, and then pop back into you have a cursor.
Yeah.
Because the OS does that all the time. Like the cursor does not need to be continuous or sort of its position is not something you have to respect. You can fuck with it as much as you want. So I'm okay if we take it out of user control for a second.
I was actually trying to think of like when you're like mousing around like this, times when the actual cursor itself jumps. And I thought, okay, well, what about snapping? But I don't think snapping jumps the cursor itself. It jumps the thing that the cursor is controlling, right? So if you have like a selection box, I actually don't know what happens. Like, because usually the little pointer in the corner of a selection box is usually like attached to the corner, but the corner can snap. Does that mean that the pointer also snaps?
That's a good question.
I don't think it does. Maybe I think basically the corner of the box just like detaches from the pointer, right?
Yeah, I think we might not find the examples we want in operating systems versus games, because games just work different. There's a couple new rules.
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think of like if I did like a selection here, right? The snap is of the selector widget and not the pointer.
Yep.
Right, because my pointer is basically continuous, and it's like the version of my finger. It's like, and maybe that's the UI paradigm is you never want to like grab somebody's arm and move it for them, but you can make the thing that the arm is supposedly controlling.
You can stick it, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's like not a terrible rule to be respecting, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I think
this app is good, by the way. I know you're a Photoshop guy, but Pixelmator Pro is
Pixelmator
nice.
is great. No. I have Photoshop only because like I got it for free. It comes with my Lightroom subscription. I'm just like, well, okay, I know how to use it. They added like deep fakes to the most recent one, and you can mint NFTs in Photoshop now. So like, we've jumped like 3 sharks.
Did I read that the Facebook whistleblower is like a crypto person?
I saw that and I was like, I'm not surprised. I'm 0% surprised from knowing her. Like, yeah.
Okay, because you know them, and so they're into crypto, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I know so many tech people into crypto. Like, man, just what a. It's too bad. Did you?
There's different shades of it. Yeah.
You didn't react to my Kiryu tweet that I sent you, but like, man, that fucking murdered me.
The
I put it in our Discord. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember it now. Maybe we can find it on Twitter.
Because gosh. Yeah, we haven't made fun of NFTs on the stream yet, so I guess it's time. It's like
It totally is.
It's so
totally
perfect.
Is.
Uh,
Yeah.
and like some of the replies are really good too.
Um,
There's a bunch of good screenshots of that they've edited. Like I loved it.
Oh. So far, let's see. Wait, are we? Is this the same tweet?
You know what? I don't know how Twitter for the web works.
Seeing a lot of Buzz Lightyear.
I give up. Yeah.
Okay. All right. A good tweet though, Alex Jeffrey.
Oh
Or
man,
Geoffroy.
Geoffroy made my day. It's gonna be like a Yakuza 8 sub story. I know it.
Okay, here's the thing about the Facebook whistleblower.
Yeah.
In some of like the lefty discords that I'm in,
They also took they took an anti-encryption
kind of think
stance.
that they're
Like, ugh.
yeah, anti-encryption stance. They kind of think that they're an op, and the rationale is that they're saying things that like if you read are probably things that Facebook would want. Like Facebook would want to be a regulated monopoly, for example, right? Like as long as you don't break them up, right? Like that's actually a favorable government response.
Well, yeah, I think right because then they don't have to be responsible for answering the questions about like what do we do with state with state attackers. They're like, cool, like the government can handle this for us. I saw the testimony there. Like I thought it was. I saw her as a true believer.
Yes, that's kind of my interpretation as well.
Yeah, because she was like, I actually would like Facebook to succeed, and I was like, oh, well, that is a different opinion than I hold. Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. That sort of surprised me. Yeah, also the notion that like the encrypted chat is bad. I was just like, please no.
Yeah, so there's like a whole spectrum of like I don't think that she's an op. It doesn't really make sense to me.
That's ridiculous.
But like I also don't think she's also just not a like Rage Against the Machine revolutionary, you know, like she very much is a reformist, right?
Well, if you work at Facebook, you can't be a Rage Against the Machine revolutionary. They are mutually incompatible experiences.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have dinner tomorrow night with someone who works in the news feed, so we'll see how that goes. You know, like, and they're a friend, so.
I wonder, like, I would not be capable of working there. I don't think I could work at Google.
Have you read about all the shit that Google has done?
Yeah, I mean, I am not surprised by any of it.
Yeah,
like 0%.
So what are the examples again? They like had a backdoor deal with Facebook, right?
Yeah, they
not just the hiring collusion thing. It was like
it was an ad market thing. It was like they colluded for ad sales to like drive up prices of people buying ads. So there was that one. There was AMP doesn't make your pages load faster, which I think is hilarious. And like we all knew that, and like AMP pages suck, and there's 10 Safari extensions for unamping links. I'm just like, yeah, like no shit, it was a bad idea. Yeah. And for some reason, every site bought into it because Google said it would improve their ad spend.
I feel like I haven't seen an AMP page in a long time, but I think it's because my ad blocker set up.
Possibly, but also you use Chrome, so it doesn't matter because they're tracking you without cookies because they don't need you. They don't need you to click on an AMP link because they just fingerprinted your browser and track a whole bunch of shit and don't care. Which like the fact that Chrome is spyware is like also we all knew it, and like fuck man, like you should never log into Chrome is the new learning. It's the worst.
They're digging their own grave a little bit, right? Because like Chromium is still being shipped, and you can just use a different browser, right?
Mm-hmm. I remain a proud Safari user. I fucking love it.
Yes, I remain a proud Firefox user.
Yeah,
and it's fine.
You know, I only use Chrome for our stream. I have, like Chrome is logged into the Jeff and Dom accounts, and like that's where that lives. And like
Chrome has superior profile support. which is why I have a Chrome window here with our lovely faces on the side.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. It's fucking wild. Yeah, I can't.
The
I'm
comment
like,
I was gonna make about
oh yeah, please, please. I'm just like, I'm so happy all this stuff came out. Whistleblow. Listen, everyone should whistleblow everything. Tech companies suck.
yes, the comment I was gonna make about the whistleblower and the crypto relationship specifically is that um I think I don't think she was canceled because of it, but like people idly talk about it that way, or at least the people I follow on Twitter. Um, and I feel like maybe I'm just like just retreading a tired claim right now, but like I think that like we have such a demand for purity nowadays that like people who do stuff that is net good can't really win because you're gonna find out something about them that like is distasteful, and it somehow is used to invalidate like essentially everything that they have done in the past or said in the past, right?
Well, and like, man, like I talk shit on crypto, but like I remain friends with a lot of my crypto people, and like
Sure,
it's okay that
sure.
I talk shit on crypto, and they hear it. It's not. I don't know. It's never broken a friendship, and if it did, that'd be weird.
Yeah, but you're not also going on Twitter or on Twitch and saying like so and so is an asshole because they're into crypto,
No,
right? Like
that's
we're
fucking
not
weird. That's so weird.
yeah, but that's what people say.
I
Like
know.
that's the way that people like that's basically what people are saying is that like, oh, I found this unsavory thing about this person, so therefore
To be fair, I think
like
like wasn't it like
yeah.
they were like asking her if she needed money? I was like, no, 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 it's okay. I moved to Puerto Rico with my Bitcoin collective, and I have enough money because I got Bitcoin early, and the tax laws here are fine. And I was like, it's quite a sentence, and it's like it's fine. We're just gonna go colonize Puerto Rico with Bitcoin. I'm just like, it was
it is true that
it was
like
cartoonish. Yeah,
that didn't need to be disclosed
right.
whatsoever, right? That is very true.
And like, you know what? If that's your thing, like, cool. But also like, I don't need purity, but like that was like four things in one sentence where I was just like, really, like, man, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess like I don't know. I don't want all my crypto friends are not people who made crypto their identity either. They have personalities. So I feel like when crypto becomes the personality, I just sort of like I'm just like, oh, okay, that's your thing, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe one or two of them have crypto personalities, but their crypto personality is cryptography and not cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of those types of people, and I think if you're interested in cryptography, it's hard not to be interested in blockchain.
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
Some valence, right?
It's where you're gonna get paid. Yeah.
Yeah. Not just that, but the amount of like the Rube Goldberg amount of cryptography that is in like any blockchain product, proof of work or not, like is really cool, right? It's interesting.
Really cool. And like we did some cool ass shit with that. Like, were you there when we were figuring out how to encrypt, how to like hide numbers but still make it possible for you to like calculate that they added up to the right thing? Like,
Yeah.
that literally blew my mind when someone presented that. I was like, how are you doing this?
Yeah, totally.
So like the cryptography is cool as shit.
Yeah, just don't colonize Puerto Rico with your Bitcoin.
I mean,
We
like,
still respect your whistleblowing.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that was like, it wasn't like, oh, I have Bitcoin money. It was like, oh, I have Bitcoin money and like four things. I feel like they got like a little righteously dragged for that, but also they have Bitcoin money, so like I don't mind dragging rich people.
Yep, that's absolutely true. Drag them.
Yeah, and I don't have Bitcoin money, and I'm very happy about it.
How's Stellar doing today? Speaking of which, we don't have Bitcoin money, but we have kind of XLM money.
We've kind of, you know what, XLM got a pandemic bump, and it's just been cruising, and I'm fine with it.
Okay, yeah, this seems like essentially what it's always been.
Yeah,
Oh, today was a 5 cent event.
delightful.
Yeah, it's been kind of chilling.
It's a real 5 cent day. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stellar's
I'm glad
fine.
we're on this like no name, like hilarious alternative cryptocurrency. It's just, I think the pure comedy of it is so entertaining.
It's really funny. I like that it hasn't like it's still ranked 25. Like it has not skyrocketed or plummeted. It's just like hanging
Yeah,
out at it's hanging out at the 25th best cryptocurrency and it's just going to stay there forever. Like that's fine.
right.
Also, it doesn't boil the ocean, so like works for me.
It is true.
At least we picked a good one.
Stellar
Yeah.
Stellar is merely useless. It is not climate harmful.
Like if they were minting NFTs on the Stellar blockchain, I'd be so less pissed off at them. Did you see that David Lynch made an NFT? That was like
Yeah. I saw it from you, man.
oh, is that do you great?
David Lynch and who was he joining up with?
Interpol, the band, not
Oh,
the
that's
agency.
right. Of course.
It's so funny. Holy shit.
What is your take on David Lynch? Is he a charlatan or is he a genius?
I think he's a genius.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's like old man yells at cloud for me, and it's the funniest thing in the world that he's making an NFT. Frankly, I feel like he's doing it only to piss people off, which is a great reason to do it in my eyes.
Sure.
Because like for all the ones we're minting, like if you mint one to piss someone off, like that's pretty low cost. Like you've only burned down one tree.
Yeah.
But man, like I think the art is in the process in that one, and I'm fine with it. Also, his shit is like utter nonsense, and I love it. It's beautiful nonsense.
What exactly is his NFT?
I think he's selling his movie in 8 parts.
Oh. Why is he doing it with Interpol?
I guess it's their movie. I don't know.
Okay.
Unclear.
I like the idea of these two just like standing. Are they standing next to each other?
No,
Or,
those are
no. This is like two different photos, but like I like the idea of this being like one space that they're standing next to each other in.
I saw the one of the I think my favorite tweet was like someone told David Lynch that NFT meant nifty fucking tulpa, and he was like, "I'm in."
Yeah. I knew someone in New York that I think worked with him at his Transcendental Meditation Institute.
Whoa. Do they have a good story, or was it like a non-story? Like I assume he's a nice
No, they
guy.
just work for him. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
I like that his thing is like he has like a YouTube where he just like announces he just like reads the weather to you every day. He's just like a friendly old man who like likes making weird shit and ripping people's faces off in movies. Like it's great.
Yeah. So for the record, I also think he's a genius. But I also think he's super camp as well. Right?
He is super camp. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I saw Dune last weekend. His was better. Dune was good, but David Lynch's is the best Dune.
Okay, yeah. How do you pronounce the director's name? Denis Villeneuve?
I've been calling him Dennis, but I just learned it's Denis. Yeah, Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve. Yeah.
He's great.
I think the only other movie of his he did
the new Blade Runner, which was good. I thought
was good. He did Arrival,
which was great. I love that movie.
I thought it was fine. I think my opinion about Arrival was actually affected by the idea that other people thought it was way better than I thought it was.
I hate when that happens.
It's
yeah,
one of those things.
You got Firefly. Yeah.
Because it was it's totally fine. Oh, you don't like Firefly?
I get no. I love Firefly. I think that's the one that like I've seen a bunch of people be like, fine, like I'll watch this thing that everyone says is great. I think that's the thing that suffers from the people said it was the most brilliant thing ever, and it was fine.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yeah, he's a great director.
Yeah. Strong. I have no critique of David.
But
Lynch.
the David Lynch one is better, is what you're saying.
So it's camp. It's got camp. It has like soul and joy and is weird in its own way, which the new one is just weird in the book's way.
Yeah, and like you're into Total Recall, right?
The original, not the remake.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
I don't even think about the remake.
That's
what
fair.
remake? Yeah. The Paul Verhoeven Total Recall, right?
I think the Paul Verhoeven trinity of Total Recall, RoboCop, and Starship Troopers is just like three of my favorite movies.
Excellent, excellent, excellent cinema. I think that all three are on Criterion.
They should be.
But there's like some Total Recall energy in Dune, I think, or vice versa.
Yeah, they just don't. It's something uncaptured recently, which is really too bad.
Yeah.
Maybe in like Nicolas Cage's weird drug fueled movies that he puts out every year, those might be the closest we get.
Oh yeah.
He keeps doing weird
Yeah,
shit.
I really want to see the one about. I really want to see the one where he's like a chef who like lives with a pig and the pig gets kidnapped. It's like a weird
What?
culinary Nicolas Cage John Wick.
Because there's another like there's one that came out this year where he's like a samurai in a post-apocalyptic wasteland and his daughter gets kidnapped or something. Every everything
Okay.
he does is so fucking weird.
It's called Pig.
It's called Pig. Okay, I love it. Look up Nicolas Cage samurai
Yeah. So now,
after we do Pig.
oh, I think I. Oh, it was critically acclaimed. Nicolas Cage. I'll just use the web as it was meant to be used.
Wow.
I'll click through things. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Filmography,
It was.
acting.
It was.
Oh, he has a separate page for his filmography.
He's that good.
He's an actor's actor, I think. I'm guessing you were talking about jujitsu.
No, it's like shit. No, definitely not that.
Prisoners of Ghostland.
Yes.
He's got swords here as well,
That one.
and his name is Hero.
Uh-huh.
I gotta watch this.
I
watch all of
I
this.
haven't seen it. I just saw the trailer and I was like, this looks fucking bonkers in a Verhoeven way. Looks great.
Yeah, I'm into it.
And I love that he makes like 6 of these a year now. It's wonderful.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. I feel like Keanu Reeves had a phase where he was kind of chugging out these like high production value B movies. You know?
They're like joyful expressions of someone's bizarre vision, and that's my favorite kind of movie.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I want to talk a little bit about my sweet ass shader.
Is this the decal? Because I want to see some decals.
Yeah, I want to show you the details. So
Yes.
let me demo it on the stream really quick,
Uh-huh.
and then we can talk about how it was put together. It's my first real shader that does cool stuff. I guess we did cool stuff with the wireframe, which was good training, right?
Yeah, but we didn't ship that, right? We're not using that in the game at all right now.
No, not really. So yeah, we got a decal here. I'm gonna use the mouse because this is just too hard to control.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, it looks great.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
I have a lot of questions about cursor acceleration on
Oh, did I?
a joystick.
Oh, yeah. We should probably think about that. I think.
It doesn't feel quite right. Yeah, that looks so good though.
Okay, I paused it.
Oh, could you dive in and
Maybe I
see
can
it?
fly in?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see the decal here. Oh, I gotta turn my gizmos off. How do we do that again?
Where's the gizmo? Oh no, I bet it's the light bulb. Oh no, I was wrong.
Okay, I just turned all the gizmos off, which is fine.
Okay, so this effect I've seen in just a million places. I feel like this is like a very video gamey painting effect. Like it looks like the StarCraft nuke. Looks like a lot of
It
things.
is surprisingly simple once you break it down.
Cool. It's like the paint a 3D object on a 2D scene or something, or vice versa. It looks great. I love it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it. First of all, I'll give some shout outs. There is Ranja Decal. This particular person, who's I believe from Germany, we visited their graphics blogs before, and they're like this kind of delightful madcap collection of like amazing amounts of shader content. And this person is clearly brilliant at graphic stuff, but is totally incomprehensible, like their writing and like presentation of facts. And yet I found this useful because I think this was like the most coherent. It had like a full shader
Nice. That's a great
down
start.
here
Yeah.
that worked. And I'm like, I don't understand any of this. So let me like copy and like start removing stuff line by line to see what it's doing.
Oh, I love it.
And so like this is I would actually treat this shader as like one of the simpler ones you can do, and yet it took me like 2 full days of just like
Hmm.
staring at code and like iterating on it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll get better at shaders in the future, but we'll see. I
I
don't
mean,
know. It's
this
like
this
kind of
stuff
one
is
of the
a
simplest ones.
it's a real
Yeah.
different programming paradigm from what we usually do. Like I feel like you have to get your brain into shader mode because when we were doing this like multiple weeks in a row, it started to make sense, but like it's out of my brain now. I know it has to go back in. It just
Yeah.
sucks.
There's no debug logging too. So like debugging this stuff is like, okay, well, what can I
Oh.
draw to a texture and like interpret the texture, like it's really kind of complicated to get values back out of the program.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, we get no
Yeah.
no shader debugging. Well, fuck.
Apparently there's a program called Pix, which
Hmm.
was originally developed for Xbox or DirectX that is available on Windows through Visual Studio, but it's still like you can't just like stick a printf in a shader because the shader processor doesn't even know what the hell to do with that.
That's fair. It has.
And there's definitely no breakpoint debugging because that again that's another thing that you need a CPU or you need something with like I actually don't know. Like at the GPU level, can you trap? Can you get like a virtual memory exception and then like add a little handler for that? Because that's what happens on a regular CPU,
That's
right? When you
that's
want
a
to
great
debug.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. It seems like
Anyhow,
yeah, Unity seems to indicate that well, this is all bit rot shit. Who knows? It seems like Visual Studio might have some debugging shader powers.
yeah, but definitely no printf. So
No.
like generally, what people do is they'll just write into the output buffer and then like look at the colors and they're like, okay, I'll draw my normals into the color buffer, for example, and it's like, oh, the normals look weird.
Good God. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it was kind of hard to like navigate this stuff. There was another blog that I also thought was useful. I don't think I spelled that right. It's behind a window. Uh,
Hmm.
this one's about doing it better. It was called Drawing Stuff on Stuff. I'm not able to find it right now. I have it bookmarked, but it's not in this browser.
Hmm.
Um, but those two were pretty useful in figuring this out.
Nice.
The general technique of this is you imagine that. Well, I actually can go into Unity and show you what the object is.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So there is a prefab in here,
Uh-huh.
the blast radius.
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, I think I just buried it in there.
Wait.
Um,
Go back to type blast. I think it was. Oh. Ah, shit. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just I don't think I made a separate prefab because it's sitting in client effects, so that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Can I go to the prefab? Is that what this button does?
You're there.
I'm not in the prefab. This is the. Oh, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Why is the scene still showing?
Oh, you're looking at like the prefab in the scene versus the
Okay.
prefab editor at the
Why
very
don't I
bottom.
just
Yeah,
click
yeah,
on it?
okay.
Let's try not to be too fancy with all my hotkeys and stuff. They don't work quite well enough. Boy, this menu is so slow. It's easy for me to misclick.
It got a little slower, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like when I try to choose stuff in here,
Mm-hmm.
like this is really laggy as well.
Boo. Okay. We need more CPUs and GPUs, is what I'm hearing.
So, oh, is that how you're interpreting this conversation?
Absolutely.
Is that we need to spend $4,000 on an M1 Max?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna wait for the M2, but yeah, exactly.
It might be better to wait because there'll be a better thing by the time we need it, right?
As I say, I think our shit is fine, and also I have a Windows machine for developing, so
Why is the scroll so slow? Am I just like really far? I'm like zooming right now and it's not zooming.
it's not doing anything. Yeah.
Oh god.
What happens if you hit F? F is always what I do in Unity until it works.
Oh, I'm so glad you told me that.
It's weird, huh? Yeah. It only works sometimes. What the fuck is that?
Okay, so all of the cursor is a unit cube. Okay.
Okay.
And you imagine that along the XZ plane,
Mm-hmm.
there is a texture that is extruded through the entire surface of through the entire area of the cube. So
Oh,
the XZ plane is the top. Imagine like there's a decal like a 2D texture that is extruded through the entire
it
thing.
is. It is like one of those 3D. It's like one of those long eggs. That's the dumbest thing to say. You're only drawing the place where it intersects with the other meshes. Is that what's happening? So it's
That's
like
exactly what's happening.
it's a cube of a flat texture, and you slice it at the intersection. That's clever.
Right. So imagine taking your decal that's like an extruded decal that's physical, right? And
Mm-hmm.
imagine that the colors go all the way through,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now imagine just like taking a router and just like sawing away everything except something that matched the shape of the terrain that you're going over.
Nice.
That's what the decal is,
That's
basically.
so clever. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So what you're doing is you're drawing this cube.
Mm-hmm.
It is an actual piece of geometry that's being drawn in a separate pass with a
Mm-hmm.
different shader. Um, but what you're doing is you're saying if there's anything that was already drawn to the stuff that I'm currently being drawn over,
Mm-hmm.
and that stuff is in world space inside where this cube is,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to basically take the X and Z position of what was previously there and use that as a UV of the texture that I want to draw,
Whoa. Okay, cool.
right?
That's a very clever system. I love it.
It's very, very clever. And it's a little bit confusing because, like, the thing that's being drawn is a cube,
Mm-hmm.
but you also care about the position of you care about the world space position of whatever was drawn before you even try to draw the decal, right? Because you care about like
Right.
stuff that's inside of the cube and that's not inside the cube, right? Because otherwise you'd just be drawing the cube itself and you would just see a cube,
Right.
right?
Right.
You only want to draw the texture where there was stuff there before.
Hmm.
And figuring out whether there was stuff there before is the entire logic of this shader, because everything else is just saying, okay, well, just take the X and Z position of where what was there before and then draw, and then just like use that as a texture coordinate and then use that to pick the color.
That's
Right.
so clever too, because like it's gonna it stretches perfectly. Okay. Neat. Ah, I love it.
Yeah. And
Wow.
then okay, so the order of operations is that okay, we have this object. And
What?
like you make a cube, and then it has some scaling in here, and I'll tell you what the scaling does in a second. But it has a material called the matte blast radius cursor,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see if I think we'll do it. Matte blast radius cursor.
And it looks like that has its own shader.
It has a shader and plus settings. All the material is in Unity is it is a combination of a shader and the settings for that shader.
Okay.
Right?
Is this now? Did you define these settings are defined by the shader, and the material is just like, oh, that's the shader. Like, I'm gonna print this UI for you, and you fill it out.
That's exactly right. So it's a
Damn,
little bit
that's
the same way
cool.
that it's like the same way that a script, like a mono behavior script,
Mm-hmm.
you can define public properties on it, and they will show up in the inspector, right?
And okay, so if we put this material on multiple things, does it run all our normal shader? It just turns these into rendering passes. So like everything with a normal shader runs, and then this shader runs second, just with the data that's with the meshes
Yeah,
that have this material attached to them, and that's with this data. Oh,
correct.
that's bizarre.
Yeah,
How do we
basically,
control
anytime you have
shader
an
order?
object that has, that's a great question. So let's talk about that. Let's
Okay.
actually take a look at the shader source code.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So this decal.shader. I actually really like Shader Lab. Shader Lab is this format,
Mm-hmm.
which includes a lot of the shader code inside of it, but it also has all these properties in
Nice.
there about like what the shader does and like whether or not you want like do you want to write to the Z buffer or how alpha blending will work in this.
Cool.
And if you recall in our render for Manchester, we had like all kinds of like different ways of bundling up these settings. But it is true that typically it's the shader that dictates how you want to use those settings. Like the shader and these sort of environmental properties kind of go together as a set. And that's essentially what we're seeing here. And Shader Lab is this whole format that Unity provides for authoring this stuff that I think has all the relevant stuff packed in one place. So I thought it was like kind of a nice experience working with it.
Cool.
So our inputs for this are a texture. That's the only input for the. That's really the only parameter for this shader. If you wanted more properties, we used to call those uniforms in the OpenGL world.
Yep.
But like we'd set them here as well.
We're not using OpenGL anymore.
No, we are using
Metal
HLSL is the name of the shader language. So it looks a little bit more like C programming. I actually like this a lot better than GLSL.
Cool. Ah, I see. And this is a DirectX derived thing, but now probably compiles to Metal with some clever
it was
tricks.
actually NVIDIA. It was originally NVIDIA's like in-house proprietary shader language. DirectX adopted it,
Gotcha.
And then
Okay.
Unity now adopts it.
Cool.
Although weirdly, Unity internally uses some OpenGL conventions, which I learned the hard way while doing all this stuff. It's really weird.
Jerks.
Specifically, that the Unity, like all of its world space math, is left-handed, so the Z increases further away you are from the camera. But the graphics pipeline, it's OpenGL style, which is right-handed, so the Z goes more negative the further you are from the camera.
Wow. Why?
Why they added that landmine? Maybe it's because the people that wrote the underlying engine were different than the people that they made maybe the hard choice of saying like people are more used to thinking in terms of like positive Z increasing away. And it was like how Lua decided that they wanted to use one indexed arrays. It's not more incorrect, but it is against the grain of some other. There's like some impedance mismatch with what's already there, right?
Sure is. Wow. Okay.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the shader. The vertex shader is like ridiculously simple. It's actually your normal vertex shader, where what you're doing is just translating the world space positions of your vertices into projection space, right? So it goes into like a 2x2x2 cube, right? But what you're also tracking at the same time is the world position of that vertex. So not only are you translating it into clip space, which is like when you project it, you're also applying the model matrix so that you're actually positioning the matrix into the world, and then you're saving that world position.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Normally you just do this, but here we're actually keeping it like an intermediate value when you do that. Because remember, you take a vertex, which is like relative to the center of the object, you transform it by the object's own transform, because the object could be rotated and scaled. And then you transform that by where it's positioned in the world, right? And then you transform that by the projection of the camera, right? The position of the camera. So there's like a series of matrix multiplies. We're just saving one of the intermediate values of that, which is its world position.
Cool. And is Unity World to Clip Pause a built-in, or is that written?
It's a built-in.
Okay, cool.
This is something you can actually, with this thing that we spent $30 on, you can actually go in and see.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah, and you can actually see this is actually being pound included, so you can almost think of this as C code.
Okay, cool.
There's a Unity CG Inc. It's like a Unity CG.h if we were writing C code. You can go into it, and it's just this giant C-looking file that's actually shader code. Yeah. So Unity has a bunch of utilities for that kind of thing. Mole, on the other hand, is a built-in for HLSL.
Cool.
Right. Which is just matrix multiply. I'm surprised that they don't use the asterisk for that, but that's just this language. Okay, so the fragment shader is like where all the nasty stuff happens. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, at the screen pixel that we're trying to draw, remember we have this cube, and if the cube is being drawn, it's being like drawn onto a particular screen pixel. What we're saying is like, at that screen pixel, was there anything else already drawn there? And if so, can you tell me the world position of that? Because what I want to do is figure out whether that thing that was already drawn there, whatever world position created that, or was the genesis of that pixel, I want to see if that thing was inside of the cube that I'm currently drawing. And if so, that's a signal that I want to actually draw a colored pixel based on the texture that I've been assigned.
Oh,
Does that make sense so far?
it does, and we have someone in chat. Ada, adorable. Is this the Ada I know? Hi, Ada.
It's funny. My chat didn't update, so sorry if we were ignoring you.
Nope, I've been watching it the whole time. Just popped up.
Okay, cool.
I have chat in like multiple windows here.
For some reason, my chat's not even showing up right now. I don't know what the deal is.
This is the Ada I know. Hooray! We are going through our decal shader. Welcome to the party.
Nice. I'll show the decal again really quick if they
yeah.
just joined. Yeah. Did I do the right hotkey? I don't think I did. I was in Zoom. I can pause when it's not playing, which is kind of a very existential.
Isn't that weird?
Zen
That button shouldn't work. Oh, Ada is working on their boutique keyboard, which and replacing some keys. Man, the custom keyboard game is very dope. Oh, look at that decal. Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty satisfying. Right?
Yeah. It looks good on the stream too. It's a little choppy, but yeah, it's very visible.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So what I was saying before is that like you're drawing a cube onto the screen, which means that it's going to translate to some screen space pixel. And then what you're trying to ask is like, okay, there probably was something already drawn there. And I can somehow figure out what world space position was responsible for that pixel. And I'm going to see if that world space position is inside the cube that I'm trying to draw right now. And this is all super confusing because both the cube that you're drawing, by the time that you get into the fragment shader, is already in screen space. The pixel that's already there is also in screen space. So the question is, how do you take both the cube and the pixel that was already there back into world space? I thought that like the whole point of the shader system is to like flatten the whole world so you can draw something under the screen. How do you go backwards?
Right. I also have this question right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Is the depth buffer? Am I
the
cheating?
depth buffer is involved?
Yeah,
it's
great.
very much involved. That's a very, very good guess. Okay, so the depth buffer, it turns out you can't read from the Z buffer that does occlusion, like occluded geometry rejection, right? We basically do a depth check, right? Which is how we can basically not sort our objects, but just make sure that they draw in the right order. It's like we basically write the Z value into some buffer. It's not exactly the Z value. Confusingly, it's like some reciprocal of that, and like it's like the reciprocal of the linear distance between the near plane and the far plane. It's a very, very confusing value. But we can read it if we tell the rendering engine to write it to another texture.
Oh boy. Okay.
And we do that here.
There's
a thing called depth texture mode. It comes with Unity. It's actually part of the OpenGL API if you look at OpenGL as well. So that probably means DirectX does it as well, probably Vulkan. And like it's like low level enough that all the driver APIs basically give this to you.
Interesting. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Force
So this means that there's going to be a texture available to us in the shader that we can read from. So if we go back to the shader, we actually declared it up here. This
I was wondering about that because I saw the main texture as our property, so that is the other one, and that is automatically filled in just by calling it that and Unity existing.
Unity knows what to do with that. Like I think main text
with that variable name specifically though, like
is mapped here. Yeah, like main text. Yeah, exactly. It's this. If I called it like camera depth texture, but I spelled it wrong,
it wouldn't work.
Barf.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I want to know where the magic is because like it's the Rails problem all over again.
It totally is, and I think main text is not magic because we declared it up here.
No, that's our property, and it shows up in the editor as texture. Like that I see. I see the clear mapping through. Right. But that one is magic. Magic is fine.
You're asking all the right questions, Dom.
Magic works great as long as it works. I'm into it.
Yeah. Okay, so what this will allow us to do is it will allow us to basically say, I know how far from the camera the thing that I previously drew was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, well, I actually know not only how far that pixel was from the camera when we drew it originally.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, this is the stuff before we're drawing this cube, right? It was the stuff that was on the screen already.
Right.
Not only do I know how far it is, but I know where the camera is, and I know which screen space pixel is there. So I could theoretically just like draw a ray from the camera position in, because I know the world space camera position. That's the uniform that Unity just gives me. And I know like the focal length, and I know which screen space pixel we're currently on.
Okay.
So I can basically retrace my steps and say, now I actually have a ray from the camera world space position to the world space position of where that thing was. And then I just take the depth that it's in, transform it a little bit, and then multiply it. And that gives me the distance, right?
Gotcha. And then are you figuring out at that distance where it is inside the cube we're drawing, and then you grab the texture coordinate?
Inside or outside the cube.
Fair.
So we're basically saying for the pixel that we're currently drawing over, let's look at what was previously drawn there. And because we know how far away it was, we can immediately know what world space coordinate that actually translates to.
Okay.
This ends up being like a super common technique, right? Like this ends up being like, remember we were talking about ambient occlusion as well. You kind of have to know these types of things, like where the world space positions are.
I'm gonna have to get used to this. Yeah. Okay. This is a very nice, simple application of the first one, or for a first time though. I like it.
Yeah, it's actually really, I think, kind of lucky that we stumbled upon this as the first thing we did, because like this is a nice, gentle, like shallow end of the pool introduction to this type of technique, which is basically saying based on the depth texture, I know world space positions, right? So you also want to know the world space position of the cube, which normally you wouldn't know in a shader. But you remember how I just took the vertex world space position and stuffed it into the output of the vertex shader?
Yep.
Brilliant. And then when I get it to the fragment shader, remember that gets interpolated across the whole triangle, right? That happens for free, because like all the attributes, the normals, the positions, the colors, all the UVs, all those get interpolated for you by the hardware by the time that you get into the fragment shader. So the world position that we're getting as the input is the exact world position of the surface of the cube that we're currently rendering, right?
Cool.
Which is great, because now I can basically say, now I can like do a position comparison between where the position of the cube and the position of the thing that had already been drawn there, right? So that's what all this math is doing. And then this is where we're actually doing the position check. What the clip function does, this is just HLSL. It's like mul, it's built in. If what it does is it terminates the entire program. Think of it as like exit.
Okay.
Or fatal or something like that. It's basically an exit if the argument that you pass into it is negative. Yeah.
Oh, because we're only looking for half a unit around the center of the cube. Yep. Okay.
Right. So we actually translate. Remember how we had that world space position of the thing that had already been drawn there? We actually translate it into object space. So rather than its origin being the center of the world, we transform it through a matrix multiply so that the origin is the center of the object that we're currently drawing. Okay, and we can do that because like that's actually just the inverse of some matrices that were already there. Think of them as just uniforms that we passed in. So we're basically saying go from the center of the cube, which is 0.5, and subtract it from that position that is relative to the center of the object. And if it's negative, then you're outside of the unit cube.
Nice.
Right.
So what does terminate the program here mean? Because if we're doing this like per pixel, does it just mean it's returning nothing? Basically, like this, it's just our.
It means don't draw anything for this pixel.
Okay, great. Yeah. When you say terminate the whole program, I sort of like have in my head like, okay, we've exited the entire shader system, but no, it's this instance. This is early exit for this pixel, and then it just interpolates for the next one and checks again.
Yeah, the way that I think about both vertex and fragment shaders is I think of them as little executables that have been enqueued into the GPU.
That's
I guess some people have like a function. Some people have like a function call mentality towards it.
Yeah.
I think that's fine too. The interesting thing about the clip function though is that you can call this in another function that is called from the fragment shader,
and it'll still kill it.
And it'll still kill the entire fragment shader,
Nice.
Which is why I think of it as an exit rather than a return.
Yep, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah, and then
wow,
if we pass this check, then all we do is we take the object position, the position of the pixel that was already there relative to the origin of the object. We don't care about the y anymore because remember we're thinking about this being extruded along the y-axis.
Yep.
and we treat that as a UV into the texture that we're drawing.
Yep.
Um, okay, so the last thing I need to say about this is that like not all of these things are unit cubes, right? Like if we go over to the game, that that reticle was larger than a unit cube, right?
That's true.
And also we may want to draw something that's like maybe we want to draw the decal over an elevation difference that is higher than the unit cube. So the way that you solve this is just by setting the scale on the object that you're drawing.
Oh.
Right. Because the scale is included in this matrix that we invert.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the one place where we don't want to apply, like we've done this apply scale over the place, but this is like actually we need to work with ones and use unity scale so that it's in our transform matrix at all stages of this. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
I'm gonna hop over to Unity. If we go look at the prefab again, or at least the blast radius cursor, the scale is set to 2 and 2 on the XZ axis. You want those to be the same scale, or else you're gonna have a distorted decal.
Nice.
But then the Y, and what this means is that the size of the area that we're drawing the decal over is basically a 2x2 cube, right?
Why is Y 3?
But it's not quite. Y is 3 because I wanted to make sure that like it doesn't have to be 3 for our game. In fact, it should probably be like 100 because what you want.
We're extruding down the whole way, right? It's just like
exactly.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. Yeah.
If it's not high, if it's just 1. Then if you think about it, the decal will never draw over the top of one of these cubes and the ground at the same time because the virtual cube that we're positioning in space isn't high enough to include the pixel that was already drawn there.
So
Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if in the editor right now you put a cube like 4 units up, the decal actually wouldn't draw over it at all because it's actually not intersecting in that space.
That's exactly right. Cool. We could totally just like do it right now.
No, that makes sense.
You would see it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. I love it. This is rad.
Cool. Yeah. So hopefully all of that makes sense.
Weirdly, it almost does.
What we're doing now is just basically placing this cube in world space, and because of the shaders is attached to it, it just draws the decal. So that is, I think, basically it. That's the shader.
That's clever. And is it drawing in the scene preview right now? Is that what I'm seeing? Like, what is the circle we're observing?
I think the circle we're observing is some weird.
It's like an artifact of it.
It sees the texture and it doesn't know exactly how to render it, so it's like half trying to render the texture. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there.
It's like making a valiant effort but failing, which is neat.
Yeah. You also asked an interesting question earlier, which is like how does it know to draw this after everything else? Right?
Oh yeah,
what's
our shader?
It relies on the fact that stuff has already been drawn, or else that whole like sampling the depth texture is not going to work anymore, right? Because So in Unity, this depends on this is a totally engine dependent thing.
Sure.
If we just take a look at the shader, you basically use this arcane tagging system to say,
oh goodness, okay,
its position in the render queue is whatever the position of the transparent layer is, plus 10.
Okay, we could have 1 through 9 there too, and it's just.
I believe this goes from like 0 to 5,000.
It's just,
and there are some predefined things like opaque, background, and transparent that are all like kind of like slotted in somewhere. We could actually just assign a number. It's
just z-index. Like say no more. Like I've done this bullshit before.
Yeah, this is exactly just z-index and CSS basically. Yeah. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is we're saying like this is actually drawing with a slightly lower priority than the transparent layer, which means that it'll draw after any alpha transparent stuff on the scene.
Gotcha. So there's like rough cues. There's like rough buckets, and we can order within the buckets.
There's like rough notches, and you can order within those.
That makes total sense. And there's some Unity Shader Lab stuff where you can change shaders together, but I assume at the end of the day they end up back in here in some queue.
Yes. There's also a confusing thing that I went down a rabbit hole reading about like shader replacement, which is where you can actually swap out the shader that runs at these different layers. So these tag names are not just Q values. They're actually like separate shaders that you can swap in and out. So you can replace the transparent shader if you wanted to.
Okay, interesting.
And maybe people do that.
Nice. We were talking about
Yeah.
we're talking about clicky
So
keyboards in chat, and also how much Ada loves shaders. So tuned in for the perfect stream.
I'm really depressed that my chat is not updating. It could be that my iPad is not logged in, and therefore I can't participate in chat. But
I'm in a logged out iPad too, and I can see it, but it's on the stream. It's all good. We've got the
and I'm logged in. Dang.
Damn, hurts.
It took me deep, Trek.
Twitch is out to get you today. Is what's happening.
It's not. Yeah.
This is all Jeff Bezos' fault. It's his problem. So take it up with him.
Dang. Is this lack of space here just something with the formatter? Yeah. This is supposed to be auto formatting, but somehow some of this stuff is not. Like, what if I did this? These are the kinds of things I really care about. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with it. Oh,
Okay.
It's supposed to be auto formatting, but whatever.
Nah, I'm not seeing it. Yeah, that's okay. I like that we have syntax highlighted in the shader. This is actually very nice already.
Yeah, I actually think my thing is just not working. My extension's not working.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really cool, and the decal looks great, man. This is neat.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us well over time. Sorry about that.
We started 10 minutes late,
Okay.
and that was my fault.
We're
so
still late.
I'm loving it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Hope it was interesting.
Yeah, Ada, thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to talk about what the kind of stuff you like to work on next time.
Yeah, I mean, we can dive into more shaders, and you might know more than we do. So
Yes, for sure.
likely. Actually, at this point, I know Jeff knows a lot about shaders. I don't.
This currently what we are witnessing is the frontier of Jeff's shader knowledge. So here we are.
Nice. Ada says thanks for streaming.
Basking in
I want to
glory.
come to these more often. So Wednesday nights, we're here. Well,
Nice.
we're also gonna do some live programming streams that are probably us just hacking on it during the day. That are gonna be much less two people talking and much more playing some music and streaming. So, yeah,
It'll be great.
yeah. You subscribed already, so heck yeah, you'll know when we do it. All right. Cool. Have a good night, chat, and Ada, Jeff.
All right. Take it easy, everybody.
Cheers.